Good morning, everyone, and thank you for choosing the market briefing analysis of today's financial news. Every day, our goal is to provide you with a thorough and knowledgeable analysis of the most relevant financial news to help you navigate the complex economic landscape. Let's begin our daily review. Financial news, June 21, 2023. Stocks and futures are showing a mixed performance in the international markets today, largely influenced by renewed concerns over rate hikes. In Asia, stocks displayed a varied pattern as U.S. equities and Treasuries experienced a decline due to indications of labor market resiliency, which may potentially support another Federal Reserve interest rate hike later this year. Mainland China witnessed the erasure of its early gains, while Taiwan and Japan faced falls in their respective stock markets. The semiconductor sector's sentiment dampened after Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company lowered its sales outlook for this year. Despite this, both the Hang Seng Index and the Kospi gauge managed to hold on to modest gains. The Chinese government's announcement of measures to bolster consumption, particularly for home appliances and car purchases, provided support to consumer-related stocks. On the other hand, Euro Stoxx 50 futures experienced a decline, and U.S. equity contracts remained within a narrow range following a significant drop in the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 index, marking the most substantial decline in nearly 5 months. This has slowed down the impressive rally of the S&P 500, which rose by 18%, and the Nasdaq 100, which saw a 41% gain, amid concerns about the economic outlook amid the Federal Reserve's aggressive tightening campaign. Both the dollar and Treasuries remained relatively stable, but a surprise pullback in weekly initial jobless claims prompted traders to increase the probability of a quarter-point rate hike beyond the upcoming Fed meeting. This, in turn, bolstered the dollar and the yield on the 10-year Treasury. According to Eugenia Fabon-Victorino, head of Asia strategy at Skandinaviska and Skilda Bankenab, it is difficult to determine if the Fed has effectively tamed inflation. Despite lower-than-expected CPI figures, other indicators suggest a resilient U.S. economy, and some activity indicators are even accelerating. Victorino expressed concern that premature action by the Fed could lead to a re-acceleration of inflationary pressures by the year's end. In Japan, the yen initially strengthened as inflation for June exceeded estimates. However, this development poses a challenge for Bank of Japan officials as they prepare to meet next week, with Governor Kazuo Ueda continuing to advocate for persistent monetary stimulus. Meanwhile, in China, some investors anticipate further support measures to be announced at the end of the month. However, Morgan Stanley strategists, including Laura Wang, warn that prudent and balanced policy considerations may lead to longer decision-making processes and action-taking, which could exert further downward pressure on corporate earnings in the next 1 to 2 quarterly results seasons. In the commodities market, the Bloomberg Commodity Index is set for its third weekly gain, primarily driven by surging wheat prices amid escalated tensions between Russia and Ukraine in the Black Sea region. Additionally, natural gas futures in Europe and the US are poised to record around 10% gains this week due to soaring power demand for air conditioning caused by extreme heat. Oil is also expected to register a fourth weekly gain, while gold has retreated from its 2-month high due to the recent strength of the dollar. Overall, the international financial markets are navigating through uncertain terrain, driven by various economic factors and central bank actions. Investors are closely monitoring the developments in inflation, labor market resiliency, and government policies to gauge the potential impacts on their investment strategies. Rice export ban in India. India has imposed a ban on the export of non-basmati white rice to control soaring domestic food prices. The global rice market is already grappling with record-high prices due to shortages, and this move is expected to add to the inflationary pressures in the region. Concerns over Elon Musk's multiple roles. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, CTO of Twitter, and founder of Neuralink, the Boring Company, and Shy, has come under scrutiny for his overlapping roles at multiple ventures. Some analysts and investors express concern that Musk's various responsibilities might lead to distraction or potential competition between his companies. Breach by China-linked hackers. China-linked hackers have targeted high-profile U.S. officials, breaching the email accounts of the U.S. ambassador to China, the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia, and the Secretary of Commerce. This cyber attack is part of a targeted intelligence gathering campaign. Undervalued global stocks. Morgan Stanley has compiled a list of undervalued global stocks that it believes will outperform the market and are currently priced below the bank's estimations. Before proceeding with our analysis, we would like to remind you that your support is very important to us. If you enjoy this video and find our content helpful and engaging, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. This helps us grow and provide you with even more quality content. Now, let's get back to the news on the financial markets and the latest updates. Yesterday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average advanced 0.47%, marking its ninth consecutive day of gains and the longest winning streak since 2017. Key contributors to the blue-chip index's surge were Johnson & Johnson and Goldman Sachs. In contrast, the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite experienced a slump of 2.05%, its worst day since March. Netflix and Tesla shares were among the key contributors to the Nasdaq's decline. The broader S&P 500 also slipped by 0.68%. However, analysts believe that this might be a temporary aberration primarily due to earnings reports. The enthusiasm for artificial intelligence remains strong, as evidenced by Microsoft's record-high stock prices following its subscription plans for AI. In international markets, Asian markets are poised for a cautious open as U.S. equities and treasuries fell after disappointing tech earnings and fresh signs of labor market resiliency that could support another hike in interest rates this year. Equity futures for Japan and Hong Kong posted small losses, while contracts for Australia and the U.S. were little changed. The Nasdaq 100 scored its biggest drop in nearly 5 months, as Netflix Incorporated fell on a disappointing revenue forecast and Tesla Incorporated declined after profitability shrank in the second quarter. Meanwhile, an unexpected pullback in weekly initial jobless claims prompted traders to price in higher odds of a quarter-point rate hike beyond the Federal Reserve's meeting next week. In the commodities market, wheat prices have seen a surge this week, reaching a 3-week high following Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Turkey's central bank raised its key interest rate by 250 basis points to 17.5% to combat the country's high inflation rate. That's all for today's top international financial and market news. As we continue to witness dynamic shifts in the global economy and financial landscape, it's crucial for investors to stay informed and vigilant. Stay tuned for more updates, and have a great day. Some of the main moves in markets. Stocks. S&P 500 futures were little changed as of 6:51 a.m. London time. The S&P 500 fell 0.7%. Nasdaq 100 futures were little changed. The Nasdaq 100 fell 2.3%. Japan's Topix was little changed. Australia's S&P/ASX 200 fell 0.1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was little changed. The Shanghai Composite fell 0.3%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures fell 0.3%. Currencies. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index was little changed. The euro was little changed at $1.1138. The Japanese yen fell 0.2% to 140.29 per dollar. The offshore yuan was little changed at 7.1775 per dollar. The Australian dollar fell 0.1% to $0.6771. The British pound was little changed at $1.2875. Cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin rose 0.3% to $29,819.19. Ether rose 0.2% to $1,892.13. Bonds. The yield on 10-year treasuries was little changed at 3.84%. Japan's 10-year yield advanced 2.5 basis points to 0.480%. Australia's 10-year yield advanced 8 basis points to 4.02%. Commodities. West Texas Intermediate crude rose 0.8% to $76.24 a barrel. Spot gold was little changed. In conclusion, we'd like to thank you for watching the market briefing analysis of today's financial news. If you enjoyed our insights and found the information helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to our channel to stay updated with future analyses. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you soon with more interesting news. Remember, the information in this video is purely informational and does not constitute investment advice. Always consult with a professional before making financial decisions.